All set? Yes, we are.
Official start to the meeting.
All right, we'll officially call the meeting of the Westport Island Planning Board to order, April 8th at 6:07-ish. We have a quorum, everybody's present, welcome, good to see everybody. First order of business will be the minutes.
So here are the minutes from the workshop. So I think I emailed these to you, but since it's been, I'm gonna, this is yours, so we have to,
We're otherwise up to date on the minutes, because we did those.
Yes, no, we are. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, I got it. Now we still have plenty of seconds.
Folks need to take a few minutes to look at the minutes.
Thanks, Jeff. Now.
So I'm just right down it.
So these are just notes in the minutes, they're not really, from the meeting, excuse me, they're not really, verbatim or anything like that, so just kind of organized.
No, it's good, you kind of summarize the conclusion.
Yeah.
Point down to what I've done.
All right, everybody had a chance to look at them tonight or prior?
Yeah, I move, acceptance of the minutes.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Penny, are you? Okay, all right, all in favor? It's unanimous. Okay. I'll sign this one and circulate.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, very good. Next item, public comment. We have members of the public here. I think they are here for the next item, unless there's any other public comment.
There is, actually, I had one permit application, I wanted to run by you if it's the appropriate time, or if you want to put it off the later in the meeting, it's done as well.
Yeah, if we, why don't we amend the, agenda? I'll propose that we amend the agenda to add it between 3 and 4, so we can hear from, Ted and Deb, and then take it up then.
Sure.
That sound good?
Yep.
All right.
Ted and Deb are number 5 too, though, I think, right?
Oh,
Right, so maybe we could put.
I was thinking you were here for the Forbes application, for the Forbes work, right?
There you go, that's fine.
We can, well, why don't we move that to, and I apologize, I didn't realize that you all were gonna be talking on that, which is totally.
Oh, I
fine.
don't know if they are actually, I just was like, oh, they're also on that permit application.
Well, let's ask them. Were you guys planning to
Oh,
talk
I know,
about?
fancy thing.
wow.
I think we
Well, that's
emailed
cool.
about Forbes.
Yeah, the
and
question
said
on-
attend this, because there was questions on it.
Right. That's what you were here for tonight. Okay, all right. Then let's, we'll address that next and then, Gary will go to your.
It's special.
All right, hearing no other public comment, and reserving Gary's public comment until the item after next. We'll proceed to item 3, the Forbes PBR submission, prepare peer doc. And, the reason that's on the agenda is because we had a conversation, Ted reminded me back in January, and it was my fault. I was supposed to get in touch with Ted and let him know that it come up and that there's some questions about that. And as I understand the issue, the concern is that under the ordinances, even repair of existing piers or docks still have to go through the permitting process, so that we have eyes on them. Understanding that it's all that's being proposed in this case and in other cases, I suppose, is restoring what was there before, not adding necessarily or subtracting from it. But that under the ordinances, we still had to go through the permit process, as we would for a new dock or pier. Do I have the understanding of the board on that? right, that would be, okay. So, I know that's kind of catching you all up and
Right.
you all wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, we've been following this for years with the town. The state is always sending out a copy of everything that's filed, but there's changed recently, in terms of the electronic, you're gonna truncate copy rate file, so licenses documents we provide to them, so. We've been following these for years, and it's, you know, after the PBR passes through the DEP, previously it was like a 14-day window. Didn't hear back from them, they were fine with it, now it's a 21-day window with their house, and it's basically approval through them after their review on their end, and never been asked to come before the planning board for, you know, replacement of existing structures that were in place prior.
Okay, and
This is certainly new that I, you know,
yeah, no, and you know, understand, and I think it's probably the first time it's come up with us as well. And so you've been doing it for several years.
several of these with the 2024 storm, we built, replaced several structures right here on the island.
Yeah,
Sure.
And
Filed PBRs and found that the copies of it. It's the first I heard that now the planning board needs to do a whole review process, so.
Yeah.
Other towns, it's code officer.
yeah,
The PBR submitted, of course, we follow the PBR, was we use a customer's the agent, and we sign the permit for the state, we're, you know, as the agent, we're agreeing to the terms spelled out in PBR standards for replacing the structures.
yeah. Well, nobody,
Most of the time, we have pictures prior to structures coming in.
Right.
You know,
right, right,
Occasionally, like EVs, there's things entirely down.
right.
I guess, so.
Well, certainly there's no criticism or nobody's, you know, raising any.
These are the rest of the submissions, you can get copies of that. DEP does not send.
Oh, that's right, it was cut off.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously no criticism, no concerns, along those lines, but I think if I'm reading this accurately, it falls in the category of, things that, you know, happen from time to time where, there's been a course of conduct or a culture, that's just the way things have been going or doing, and nobody paid much mind to it or raised it. It came up, I don't remember exactly how it came up, but it came up. And we looked at the ordinances, and the ordinances, the way they read anyway, indicate that, we still have to go through the permitting process. Now, having said that, what's the status of things right now? Is my guess is you guys are pretty far down the road.
No, I mean, she has a window where she has to make a decision to actually do the replacement. With the state, following the PBR standards, you got a 2-year window.
Okay,
For approval, and with the approval, and after that 2-year window expires, then she would have to file an NRPA. Much more lengthy process, so she
gotcha.
has to make a decision from that when we close it, that she wants to replace that in the PBR standards, and the only pull out. If that expires, then she has to go through the whole NRPA process.
And so she hasn't made that decision yet, as to what she's gonna
The
do.
clock's ticking, she knows.
Okay,
the October date was just an arbitrary being picked.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
we had, she's filed a PBR, that's on file, record with her.
She knows she has 2 years to make a decision.
gotcha. Just from your perspective, because obviously you're the one directly involved in doing the work. Are you anticipating she's gonna make a decision in the next 6 months or so?
Don't know,
Okay. Okay,
I can't answer that.
okay.
So where is it in the ordinance that it's, what section?
I knew you were gonna ask
All right.
that.
So I remember we had this conversation with Gary about this. And I don't remember what section of the ordinance we were talking about, but we ended up reading it and coming to the conclusion that it's a planning board permit. Do you remember, Gary?
If people call me and ask me about the rules as far as permitting, something like that, was my threshold was the 50% threshold. Under 50% replacement, under 50% damage, it's maintenance and repair, and doesn't require a permit.
Is it
If
under,
it's more than 50%, then it's replacement and requires a permit. Because it's a pier, it's beyond the high tide line, which is beyond the limits of my authority, so planning board is the review authority in that situation.
And this is under non-conformance? So non-conformance?
No, it's not non-conformance, it's just in the regular, permitting language, permits required.
Mm, okay.
Separate section that talks about repairs, or would it be under the pier itself?
No, it wouldn't be understanding now. Let me see if I can get to. Nobody told me I was gonna be back in the system.
I'm only seeing 50% in the non-conformance section. And a little bit in the trees section. I'm on page 6 of the shoreland zoning ordinance, reconstruction or replacement,
Oh.
under
that's,
non-conforming structures. I guess that's why I was confused, 'cause I was, is it a non-conforming structure?
hmm.
Uh, Gary, do you have like a citation where it would be in shoreland zoning?
You're gonna have to give me some time.
Sure, sorry. You didn't know there was gonna be a quiz.
Somebody on this board told me we needed a permit, and now you're asking me to come up with a sentence. That's a little.
Yep.
Yeah, I see. Okay, well, under section. Still not. proposed. All right, well, how about this? To be continued.
Yes.
Thank you for coming in. We will do our homework and find out. Get the answer. I suppose we can talk to MMA too, if there's a question about it. But we will get an answer and I'll communicate with you one way or the other. And if we need any further conversation about it, we'll.
Yeah.
put it on it. But thank you for coming in. Thank you for calling it to our attention, and thank you, April.
I was watching just a replay, you brought my attention. Actually, Tim Forrest had mentioned, I bumped into him, and he said it's the first time he'd experienced that with real PBR. So he come down to the site visit, and as the time looked, it said it's the first time he'd experienced it as well, so. I wasn't aware of this. Went back and looked at some of the sheets and discussions on it.
Excellent. All right, well, we will get a definitive answer and get back to you on that, and thanks for your patience on it. Any further discussion from the board members? Okay, good. We'll get, I'll do, some research on it. I'll communicate with, April, we may, if we need to ask MMA if there's anything going on there, but, we'll find out one way or the other, and I'll communicate with you and board. Okay. You're next.
All right. So I'm assuming that probably most of you have noticed that there's a nice diamond new shed up on Lake Hughes property, the street. I got a permit application. Just about a week ago. The purpose of the shed apparently is to be used as a gallery for Daly's artwork. So that her customers don't have to come mill around in her shop and her work area. So I had to ask for a little additional information. Then I got looking at the rules, and it's one of those situations where I would be comfortable describing it as an accessory building to the main use. Which is code enforcement level permit. But when I looked on the town's website, the business is not listed. And there's no description of the primary activity. So it would be hard for me to make a determination that yes, this building is an accessory of something, even though that I know that it is, there's no record
It's,
on file.
it's not a residence. It's not an accessory to a residence.
The ordinance gives code enforcement the authority to approve accessory buildings, even for commercial uses, not principal, the commercial uses, when accessory uses. And had her business been listed and she'd already been to the planning board under site plan review and said, you know, this is what I'm doing, it's as the. I would have been perfectly comfortable saying that's essentially the issue in the permit. It meets all the ordinance requirements. But because there's no record of a primary business, I wanted to have a conversation with the new forward.
I think there needs to be a site plan review of that property.
Yes.
And there has needed to be, but there hasn't been interest in doing it, I guess.
Well, that's why I'm here. I mean, this may be your opportunity if that's how you feel. But I'm not gonna make that determination, you are.
I don't understand why there needs to be, I don't understand why there needed to be before this point where she's inviting people to her property and constructing a future gallery. I think if it's her private property and there's a structure that was previously bought, and we can say, sure, change of use, but she was using it privately before. It was not
It's
not a
not a
location.
residential property. It's not a
Right.
residential use.
Right, so are you saying that when somebody buys a piece of property that doesn't have a dwelling, that they should have to go through site plan ordinance?
No, but if you're doing a commercial activity,
But what up until now deems their commercial activity?
well, that was the gray area. Perhaps, and we sort of relied on people to come forward and say, yes, I'm doing something which is non-residential commercial. I've got people coming to my property.
I just don't understand, I mean, I don't understand about how up until this point is it considered necessary for a site plan ordinance. If somebody buys a piece of property that was formerly commercial,
Mhm.
but just has a building or a barn or an outbuilding, they don't necessarily, that doesn't necessarily trigger a site plan ordinance.
Having a commercial activity would trigger site plan.
Well, we
review.
don't have commercially zoned properties on this island, so it doesn't make any sense.
No, it's based upon your use of the property, and that's what the
But
site
how
plan
would you
review is
prove-
about.
She was using it commercially prior.
Well, this is why it's sort of left up to the folks to come forward and say, I'm actually doing something commercial here, meeting the criteria set up in the building code ordinance.
Right, not refuting that, I'm just saying there was no commercial use of the building up until what she's, I guess, or thinking about doing.
Well, there was prior, but I don't think J&D ever went through site plan
Right.
review. I have no record of it.
Right, I'm saying,
So-
not with
so-
the new change of hand in the property.
That's right, so, you could say, okay, they weren't doing it, but if they're now having people coming and, as a shop, it's not a residential property. I think that they need to come through and review what they're planning on doing with the property,
Yeah,
which is the purpose of site plan review.
yeah, I think that site plan review is necessary, I'm just saying, I don't think it was necessary up until this point.
When I say it was a gray area, because it's been used as a basis for a landscaping business.
Yeah, but it's an immediate change of use when it changes hands.
Anytime a property it's under site plan review, commercial, changes hands, it's supposed to, if you're gonna continue it in commercial, it needs to go through site plan review as well with the new purpose, the new owners.
I'll stop here.
Okay, well, let's, sounds like we've got something to talk about, think about. And you know, my preference would be to do it in terms of concrete, you know, facts and, as opposed to talking about it, you know, generally or philosophically. So, I think since there's a question and we probably shouldn't talk about it without them present anyway, too much further than we can. Let's go ahead and put it on the agenda for the next month, if they're comfortable doing that, if they want more time, but. And invite them to come in and talk to us. And
So my clock expires before your next meeting, so I have to make a decision on the application. I have to make a decision, either I can approve it or no, I can't approve it, it has to be the planning board. So if you're telling me tonight that you want to see them before the planning board, that's the decision I will make.
okay, yeah, I mean, it's, appreciate you raising it. I mean, you know, this is a kind of a subject that's been, discussed and, I don't know if it's a controversial subject, but I guess maybe it is. Since it's unresolved, or we don't have a definitive, yeah, let me see. I think we do have a definitive position. The question is whether this falls into that category. It sounds like it does, so, I'll leave it to the board, but I think the consensus would be, the appropriate thing would be to defer it to us. Would be to defer it to us, I don't know, necessarily required to deny it.
No, the decision was right, and I can't approve it because it needs planning board review, so you may wanna.
Yeah.
So what does this mean, purchase a split a portion of a parcel, what does this, where are you with that, are we understanding?
No, this is.
No,
No,
Well,
this is something not on the agenda.
It's
Not on the agenda.
It's not on the agenda.
I apologize, I wasn't sure what was going on.
Yeah,
It's on the agenda, it's public comment.
it was.
Okay, I apologize, I was reading a little bit too much into something, okay,
Yeah. Good point.
sorry.
If you're not on,
Well, I know,
We're-
Mary
we're
Ellen tried to keep up, it's hard, yeah.
all right, well, let's just go around the table. Any thoughts on the conversation thus far?
I think it's probably appropriate for site plan review. The site plan review ordinance says any non-residential development.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, they don't define that because I've been trying to get a little clarity, like. You know, you come up with these gray situations, where does it fall? You don't want someone who just buys a piece of property and puts up a shed to store their boats to have to go, that would be ridiculous to have to go through site plan review. So I don't think the ordinances are much help in that, is when you get into these slightly gray areas. I think it'd be worth talking to Bailey. It seems like maybe she's heading in a commercial direction, which would be great for the island. We can ask her about it. If it's strictly, I guess I would pose a hypothetical. If it's strictly she has a workshop where she works on art. She puts up the shed, she just wants to display art. She doesn't want to sell it, she's just putting out her artwork for people to come see. I'm a little unclear what we would call that. But then you're generating traffic, so I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't think our ordinances are much help.
yeah,
For
I mean, it's just that it's kind of a gray area. It has been one and it's been, you know, controversial. We're not gonna decide it tonight.
Yeah,
Right, but I think the point tonight is, you know, there's a disturbance in the air about something that is possibly going to happen. And it's something that at least, sounds like something that might fall into the ordinances after we talk and have a discussion about it. You know, we can make a more definitive, take a more definitive position about it, so.
So my understanding is that there's site plan ordinance applies to every kind of commercial, whether it's like small homemaker stuff or large stuff. And that's something that we've been actively working on to kind of look at and apply different rules to, but as it is now, site plan ordinance applies to any kind of like non-residential.
not.
No,
Right.
no, there's two levels, home occupation,
Right.
means that you can have your home and then you run a small business out of your home.
Mhm.
And there's criteria there for when it steps over the line into being really
Employee.
commercial.
Yeah.
The number of
employees,
employees, you can have an employee,
Mhm.
I think it's more than two.
Mhm.
So the point is that you know, it's the same, we're here primarily as a residential setup for the island. So when people step away from being really residential, it should be something we take an interest in. That's why I'd say this. To the hypothetical, of someone, you know, buying a piece of property, putting a boat up, I don't think that's not a commercial activity, doing their personal storage. But when you're doing something which is more of a business, then it becomes more difficult.
But the defining feature isn't necessarily commercial. Commercial is one of the aspects for site plan review.
Mhm.
But you could have a governmental entity, a
Yeah.
nonprofit.
Yeah.
And, you know, so even, I guess if Bailey is doing a gallery and, you know, having other artists display and people are coming, even if it's nonprofit, then it starts to.
Yeah.
Follow their site plan.
And it's not residential, it's true, there's no residents there.
Right,
So it's our big responsibility just to get into something which is not a standard residential activity. Doesn't mean there's a problem, and doesn't mean we don't wanna support it, because I think by and large we do. But the process would be, to my mind, my understanding is that they go through and present, this is what we're gonna do with the property, so we know.
This is kind of extended public comment,
Yeah, I remember we had that brief discussion on that property north end, and I'm wanting to go familiar with shoreline zoning, but just in the definition page of shoreline zoning, you know. Commercial use business, I'm not sure your buildings also has the definition of what's considered commercial.
Yeah.
Spell it out, we ordered somewhere what
Yeah.
it is,
specify as commercial,
yeah,
at least figure the exact wording.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Okay, other. Mary Ellen, anything, Dick, do you have anything else? Okay, all right, is there a consensus that we put it on the agenda for next week next month? And invite them to talk to us about it. I guess in terms of the ordinance, it would be a pre-site plan review meeting if
pre-application meeting.
pre-occupation.
But again, we have in the past done everything in one meeting, if they wanted to come in and actually present. A plan.
Yeah.
I'd like to suggest that we could accept that as an option.
Yeah, the opportunity is
Yeah.
certainly there. And again, it's uncomfortable because they're not here and, you know, I know Gary would communicate with them, but, I want to make sure they feel comfortable. We're not kind of making decisions about their property without them being present to participate. So I think the best thing right now is we have something floating around out there. There's enough of a connection to the ordinance that we think the better course would be to invite them here to talk about it. And then we can make some more definitive decisions about where we go. And it could be that, you know, we say, no, it's not gonna apply. But until we sit down and talk with them, I don't think we can make that decision. Does that help?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell them, I know what you're telling me.
All right, well,
That you wanna talk to them.
Yeah. well, send,
You need to talk to them about, to find out exactly what it is they're doing before you can decide whether or not to.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I mean, this is that gray area, right? And it may be that it's a nothing burger, it may be it's something that, you know, the ordinance is gonna apply when you just apply the ordinance. But if you wanna send them an email, I don't know the direct communication, or if you wanna send them an email, copy me, and then I can send them an email and be more descriptive on what we'd be looking for. And again, it's, you know, it's a voluntary thing. Or not.
Well, if I haven't been to them, we've been talking on the phone.
Oh, you've been talking, okay,
Yeah.
well, give me my email, and say,
I have Bailey's.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think I've got Mike's, you know, too, I think.
okay, all right, well, if you all send that to me, then I'll send it. Then I'll copy you, Gary, and the rest of the board. Thank you for raising it, I appreciate it, yeah, because it's been a sore subject, for as long as I've been on the board. And, you know, when residents who are equally concerned about consistency and, the integrity of the ordinances, are kind enough to raise it and say, hey, what should we do here? We need to respond in kind, so I will be thoughtful and come up with an answer that I think will work for everyone. Okay. Any other public comment? No. Good. All right, thank you. Plus that non-item on the agenda.
Which item are we crossing out for Mary Ellen not to get confused?
The next one, presentation by Sheila Weaver. Was she coming?
I don't know, I wasn't in contact. So Ashley.
Oh, this is the one with Ashley, yeah.
Um,
Did I think I sent a copy of the agendas to her.
yeah, I don't know if she's been explicitly invited to the planning board yet or not. Ashley explained the situation, I don't
Yeah,
remember exactly. I think it was a problem with splitting more than you're supposed to in a certain amount of time triggers the subdivision rules.
right. I thought this was another tax. Deal. All right, well, we'll just, since no one's here to talk about that, we'll pass it for now.
Was Ashley just happened to be the one to speak to her?
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah,
she didn't know what to do.
I thought she was talking to Ashley because of taxes.
Yeah,
So it's the reference, is to a lot that's 28 acres. And it was the gravel pit area, sand pit area for G&D Chromo.
Okay,
So at least looking at the tax map, that's the picture, so it's up back up behind Bailey's lot. And access is actually by a road that goes through Martha, her last name. which is-
Oh, is this separating William?
Yeah, that's right,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah, I talked to her a while back about that. She was gonna transfer part of it to her son. I explained her, she asked if she could do it, and I said, it depends. You gotta look at that, tried to explain that whole process to her, but it's pretty convoluted if you're not familiar with it.
Yeah, but I think I don't think there's been any splits or any further subdividing since it was divided some years ago.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And I know that
okay,
I think that's the question, has there been anything otherwise? I think she could do a split because there's no, it hasn't hit that 5-year mark. It's past the 5 year.
and that's what I told her she needed to ascertain.
I'll let Ashley know, and I'll send Ms. Weaver another email saying we're happy to put it on the next agenda if they still want to come talk to us. Okay, item 5, we got word, and this was more of a sharing thing, sharing news, I guess. that there was an application filed with the Maine Department of Agriculture. Oh, yeah, this is one at the north end. Your next, basically the next step in your process of putting in the pier and the dock is fine.
Yeah, it's just part of the process. We get
Yeah,
applying for the, permanent grant and will be. State of Maine lets us submerge land easement to, like, keep the system in a year round.
yeah. And you all aren't ready to do anything with us yet, are
I work, they're painfully slow.
Still waiting for approval from the DEP.
you? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything you all need from us at this point?
I think so right now.
Okay, cool. All right, yeah, this was just one of these, by the way, things that we whenever we get communication about things going on, we'd like to share it, bring it up to the board, let them know. So thanks for doing that. Okay, any comments from the board on that item? No, okay. Next item, annual committee report. That's in my basket of things to do. It's due April next week. Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's right, on the bottom. Poor Gary.
That's right. So, I'll draft that and, I'll circulate it to everybody, probably this weekend. Good night, guys. Good to see you. Thanks.
Thank you. You again.
You bet. Yeah. I'll circulate it, probably this weekend and, if folks have comments, up or down, just let me know. I don't see it as anything willing to work on, but, I want to make it as accurate and comprehensive as possible. And I'll obviously be working from last year's reports, my mind. We have all kinds of fun things to report.
Yes.
That we've been working on.
Fascinating.
Okay. We're now then at the highlight of the evening, continued conversation about proposed ordinances for town meeting. And I apologize, I didn't have Demi's, didn't really know what to call it. I wasn't sure whether Demi was still pursuing it, but, yeah, do you, and I guess this is a kind of a combined, process as well as substantive. Do you, want to put it in front of us tonight to vote on? Okay. Because I'm thinking that we may still need one more meeting before we send it to the select board meeting between now and May. But maybe not. But maybe not. So, why don't, since you haven't had, in terms of equal time, since you haven't had much time
I'll keep it short.
the last couple meetings, do you want to present now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll keep it short too. So I've been looking since we've had the groundwater study and we have had the, just commentary about some development on the island that was within the parameters that we currently have. At first, I was looking at lot coverage. So our current lot coverage is 20%. I was at first thinking about changing that to 15%, but with everything else that's happening and that actually changing the amount of the development lot, I didn't want cause that too much of a stir this year, but that is on the back burner. What I did look at is, and found surprising from the study, was saltwater intrusion, how common that is for wells. I noticed kind of while looking at things that we didn't have a setback for fences or for driveways. I'll pull it up in proposal, but I just wanted to show a thing. So what I'm proposing is a 10-foot setback for fences and a 10-foot setback for driveways. For the driveways, a 10-foot setback would be primarily. No, why is it disconnecting? That's connected. So my reasoning. It's mostly for the driveways for burn to the well, obviously fences don't really affect wells much. Right. See. Okay. So regarding driveways, people solve, they plow their driveways, they can put, de-icing mechanisms on that driveways or whatever. Right now, they can put their driveways right onto the property line. If you're, have a tight lot, a lot of people's wells are to the front of their houses. Or to the front of the road frontage, so that's why we're seeing some saltwater intrusion, but they're also kind of close to the outer bounds of lots, so they could be close to driveways as well. If we had a nice buffer, I'm proposing 10, we can look at that. For the driveway to be off of the abutters the property boundaries. It would kind of give a little more buffer to that well, so nothing dangerous is leaching near it. Also, I think this prevents from during plowing season, from big snow, berms or big snow piles accumulating onto other people's property. When it melts, it leaves all kinds of residue, so someone who's plowing their driveway could, if it's a bad winter like we had, you could have like a 20-foot or 15-foot like big snow pile that the tractor's been building up all winter, and then come melt, just debris, so it kind of creates a nice little boundary for that between property owners. And also kind of making sure that snowbank is not really, if it's within their bounds, then it's not obstructing the other property owners like site to get full out. Onto the fences, I know it seems kind of ridiculous now, but as we barrel into the future, we have newer neighbors. I feel like fences are gonna be more common. So I suggested is the same setback for fences is of 10 feet, and that's so if a fence falls down, then the owner of the fence, that would allow ample space for the owner of the fence to come around the fence, maintain it, or if the fence falls down and no one's maintaining it, it remains on the property owner's land. So yeah, that's about it. Pretty simple. It's just we don't really have setbacks for these type of things. We also don't have setbacks for sheds under 200 square feet, right?
Oh, no, there's still setbacks.
For front.
For everything.
Mhm.
Just quickly, if it's the 150 square foot exemption, which by the way, I would like to see disappear.
I know.
You still have to make setback requirements.
Even if it's under 150 square feet, okay, so you still have to meet the buildable, so because it's a permanent structure,
Because it's a structure,
gotcha,
even a patio is a structure.
so sheds don't really apply here then. I'm looking at things that you can erect that are pretty permanent, that are not falling within our current setbacks of 20 feet on the sidelines and front lines, and 40 feet on the back, and that was kind of what.
I think it's
this
under-
was showing,
Principal and accessory structures is the sort of overarching
yeah.
section.
So what would that look like? Basically, where you see this black square, this is the overall green square is a 1.5 acre lot. Equivalent to 65,340 square feet. You'll see that the black line is showing like a fence, which is basically in the middle of that 20-foot setback. And that's it.
Okay. All right, good, thank you. Questions?
I think this is this is a couple of good ideas for sure. At some point, you've got the road commissioner or the code guy responsible. I think they should be determined that the road commissioner does the driveways, if you will, setbacks, and the code guy does the fences. So I think you said or something like that, so if you could just clarify that?
Yeah, so that's under enforcement, the road commissioner or the code enforcement officer shall be responsible for verifying compliance with this ordinance. The enforcement shall include review of site plans and field inspections, as just the general stuff. So whose enforceability does it come under? And I believe we now have a driveway application, right? So this could kind of tie into that. you
Yeah,
know?
we don't have a separate driveway application,
Oh,
it's just using the regular permit form, but. We talked about this, I talked with Jim about this, we were putting the driveway section in and he specifically did not want to get involved in code enforcement. So his proposal was,
Say that I blame.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he said, let Gary handle it, but you know, he can check in with me on driveways, but Gary's got the standards in here and they're, you
So
know.
it should be the code, it should be one, the code person should be recognized.
Okay.
That's,
Right, road commissioner doesn't really enforce.
So you're suggesting, delete the reference to the road commissioner.
I think so.
I think he'd prefer that.
Yeah,
But
I thought we wanted to see the way the plan for driveways going in, especially with regards to culverts.
He's, there, the language is in consultation with the road
Right.
commissioner.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so Gary's the law, but Gary can check in with
Right.
Jim on driveways.
Yeah, cause I remember him talking about like washouts and people building driveways when it's stopping drainage from happening, and you'd like to see culvert here or there. Okay, so how does everybody feel about this? Is it gonna be too much? Or is this, you know, does this match the character of the island?
well, I think between properties, often it's just foliage,
Is what,
just foliage, just trees, bushes,
for most properties,
yeah.
but
So I think that's the usual, I think usually see how people mark their boundary. If they wanted to have a fence, and we do have properties that have fences, this is true. I guess I'm just, to me, if I had a fence, I wanna talk to my butter about it. Because it affects them too and their visibility. And so I kind of want to have them involved anyway. Even though I don't necessarily want to make it the law. But
Yeah,
that is just like good neighborliness to do that.
I know, I put that under a butter exception, a fence may be placed closer to the 10 feet property line if affected. Abutters provide written consent agreeing to the reduced setback. So this is kind of putting a baseline, not everybody's gonna ask their neighbor check is what I'm getting at, and not everybody has. And not everybody will.
Sometimes the fence is built because of the name.
Yeah,
right.
That's true, that's true.
Sometimes people put the ugly part of the fence towards their neighbor, which is, I've seen, and,
There's
I'm
a
just-
statute that specifically refers to spike
Spike
fences.
fences, right, spike.
Yeah.
What, I mean, the thing that just kind of pops out in my mind, and, you know, it's just. So you've got two butters, if they both put up fences, you've got basically what? Maybe feet of dead space
Yeah.
between.
it would be like 20 feet,
Or 20,
yeah,
so it's kind of like,
a railway.
what do we, you know, that's.
I mean, right now, you could do
You
it,
know, some people,
Yeah.
you know, they, you know, they wanna be able to use every square inch of what they have. However they wanna use it, that's basically creating a no person zone. On the other side of fences.
yeah, I mean, if my hope is by putting this. It's like a small thing, but my hope is by instituting this, it prevents that from happening. Like, if a person putting up a fence wants to put up a fence, right now they could, and they could do it right on the boundary of whatever boundary they choose to, they don't need a survey. They could say,
Well,
you know, this is it, and so the butter right now has no rights or no protection. And I understand we're a rural island, but lots are gonna get smaller than they are on the average right now. I'm thinking about the future. And I've seen it happen in neighborhoods like ours, they change in 15 years, you know?
Even with the lot size, the way we have it,
Well,
One
this is
and a half acre?
an acre and a half
Yeah.
is, I mean, as you see, I kind of scaled it.
But yeah, no, I think it was good, but Hanny having that picture.
It kind of gives you an idea of what, and I just did like kind of a cape, like a 48 by 28 and a 24 by 24, like attached garage or something. And then just kind of giving you an idea of what that would look like, but yeah,
So are you proposing then that, currently people don't need a permit? to put- So Gary may not even know about it. So are we asking for them to get a permit now to put up a fence?
you don't need to know about a fence, do you? No, yeah. I would put this under the CEO's jurisdiction.
The other thing is, if you are intending on creating a new permit category of fences. And you're expecting code enforcement to go verify. The 10-foot setback is met. If somebody's putting a fence up in their backyard for their dog or something, and you say, yeah, my property line runs along those trees. How in the world am I gonna know where that property line is? Cause it's not like city blocks, you know, you can see. where the
Yeah.
fence is. I mean, go out there and tell me where the property line is up behind that salt shed. You
Right,
know, you'd have to spend a day in the registry tracking down a deed and then spend another half a day pulling a tape measure, you know. So I'm relying on the application form. And if somebody says, I'm 12 feet from my property line and I'm looking at woods. You know.
so how does that work with when someone's building a structure? How do you know how far they are in
It's
their?
the same thing. I mean, roads are easy because you can.
Both this side,
Easy. But, yeah, I mean, sidelines, sometimes, you know, sometimes you can see a monument, sometimes you can't, so it's. If there's a setback that's close, I will ask them to show me where the monuments are and then put some flags or stakes up or something
Mhm,
to determine where the line is.
mhm.
And it doesn't happen most of the time, occasionally it does.
Yeah. And just, you know, it could be, anybody could wake up right now and just be surprised if there's like a fence, like on their property line, that's what it is right now.
And there's no height limit to the fence, if someone could drop a, I mean, I guess we have a, what is it, 35 foot overall?
Well, there's statutory limits and like John was saying,
Yeah.
it's spike strength, fence language, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, okay, good.
A 10-foot tall fence can be challenged.
Yeah, I mean, if you find, I've seen in the last 2 years, you know. Where I go back to where my husband grew up, like rural neighborhoods, it was all forest around, and now, like. Just waking up to giant 8-foot white fence, like. Done. And it's on the line, and it could be done like this without any kind of notice to the abutter or. And that really changes the landscape, I feel like. I don't know, I feel like the abutter should have rights. I think if you're gonna put a fence, it should be on your part of the land. Without any doubt, and I think, you know, we could take it from 10 feet to 5 feet. But I'm thinking if the fence falls down, it goes into disrepair, then it's automatically already on the other person's property line. But on the driveway setbacks, we haven't really discussed that, what is everybody's temperature on that?
Yeah, I was wondering, when you take a look at our landscapes around here, you're drawing shows it right in the center. A
Yeah,
lot of times the building situation won't accommodate that, so you might have to encroach into the area that you're trying to read as a setback.
mhm.
Gary, are you permitting driveways?
Yeah.
So you're involved at that stage? Do we have driveways that are right on the property line?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's driveways that are pretty close.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna
I mean, it
prevent-
makes sense for, you know, for ditching and maintenance.
Yeah.
So I'd be a little cautious about using the example of salt intrusion that we use, because somebody's gonna say, do you have any evidence of that? I served on an ad hoc water committee for about a year, trying to determine whether road salt is impacting wells, and now until you feel on turn the studies that we did, it wasn't. So, I mean,
Yeah,
a driveway might be salted at most 2 or 3 times in the season. And I would highly doubt that, you know, the casing theoretically as well will be down into the bedrock, so I don't think that's gonna be a huge concern.
yeah, when we were listening to the water quality, analysis, I asked where saltwater intrusion was happening. He said it was on the interior of the island, not on, it was on there's one house on the water, but there's houses on the interior of the island, and I was like, how would that happen? Thought, word thought, oh, okay. But,
That may be a well that doesn't have it's got like a 10-foot casing. 20 feet of overburden, it's sort of. Diving down into the home,
Yeah,
that's an easy fix, that can be seen.
Mhm. yeah,
I was so taken by your point about, the impact to the butter. In terms of snow removal and
okay.
and berms that you might be creating, which is interesting, and I didn't know whether I'll have people do that today.
Yeah, we have it, I mean, in our area, it's the same. You know, the moisture goes away and you kind of rake it all back to where it belongs, so.
Hmm.
You know, hasn't been a problem. But not said couldn't be. And our, you know, the entire length of our lot on the long side is, the boundary is the side of the road. The roadway.
Yeah, if you think it's, not worth pushing forward, I totally understand. I just thought that these two things that are relatively permanent to the site plan are in the wild west in regard to the building envelope that we have.
Well, it's really, it's really the first time we've had a chance to really, chew on it, so why don't we continue thinking about it?
Mhm.
And, I think our hard stop is the next meeting to submit something to the board, but by the end of the night, we may decide to have another meeting between now and May.
Yeah, let it
So,
percolate.
yes, let's do that,
Okay.
let's think on it, and we'll see where. Thank you very, very much, good job, good job. All right, the next one, the pesticide ordinance, we have, and I wanted to work on it a little bit. Cause I think we can pare it down to, a little, I think there's.
Do we have a new copy of that too?
Is that the Sue Gallagher one?
Yeah, we do, I don't,
Did she send it to us?
She sent it out at the,
Yeah,
after the last meeting.
Okay,
yeah,
yeah, I guess I can go back that far.
Let's see if I can
When I-
find it. I can put on the.
okay, yeah, if not, I'll send around my rework and the original, so we'll have it look at.
My recollection is that she had further refined.
It was really well done,
Yeah.
it was really well done, there was just, when I started looking at it closer, it looked like there was stuff that we could consolidate, simplify or pare down.
So come in March, but
So I'll do that, for our next meeting, whether it's May or otherwise. And I don't think it's absolutely necessary, I think we could probably send it on select board the way it is. It's been trying.
So what we would be doing, in terms of the public hearing would be part of the public hearing for the warrant articles, or how do we get the public hearing part?
Okay, well, that's another, subject, and I should have put it in here. In terms of the public hearings, it's my recollection that we have a public hearing and then the select board has a public hearing. But I needed to confirm that. It
No.
may be that there's only the need for one public hearing.
Right, so legally, the planning board is obligated to have a public hearing on any zoning ordinance changes. The select board isn't obligated to have any hearings whatsoever
Okay.
on ordinances that will be on the warrant because the town meeting is the
Is the
hearing.
public hearing.
Traditionally, they have those, just as public courtesy, transparency thing.
Yeah.
So their warrant preview sessions, which they did last year, and they're gonna do again this year, kind of serve as that. Doubling as that, so I think it would probably be best, so that people don't have a million things to go to.
Right.
To have those preview sessions, and if we're gonna end up proposing any of these ordinances, just make our public notice. We have to do a special kind of public notice, but we'll make the notice for those preview sessions fit that legal form. And mention that the ordinance hearings will be part of it.
And schedule them at the same time as the preview.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense.
And those have been set, you said,
Yes, yeah, 5/14, which is a Thursday at 6, and 5/22, which is a Friday at 6.
5/22.
Yep. And
So
so
it's
we
good.
probably wanna do both of them. They're kind of meant to be identical, but on different days, so if someone can't make
Yeah,
a Thursday. Friday
Okay.
instead. So we,
When does the select board want our proposal?
I mean, far enough ahead for them to get a look at it.
Yeah.
For the preview sessions, it's a draft warrant. They don't have to vote on it yet. They're gonna put together whatever they have and put out a draft so people can see it a little before those sessions. They finalize the warrant, June 1st. So probably as much notice as possible, like as far ahead as possible as we can get it to them. But there isn't like a hard deadline.
Let's see, our May meeting is. Is the 13th, which would be the day before their first. Meeting, so. Well, let's go ahead and talk about this, we could, I suppose, have our regular scheduled meeting the week before on the 6th. Or we could keep our regular meeting on the 13th and schedule one last meeting to finalize our votes on the proposed ordinances between now and the 13th. So either do it the 6th and combine it with our normal meeting, or have a special meeting between now and the 13th.
would the 6th be a special meeting?
Well,
We just move our,
move our regular meeting,
so it's a reschedule.
yeah, reschedule,
Okay, so we normally would meet on the 13th, we move it to the 6th.
yeah,
Is that what you're saying? I think we might need another one in between.
still.
Yeah, I don't
I mean,
know.
that's,
I feel like we have a lot of work to do.
I'm fine with that, we put a lot of effort into it, we wanna get it right, and, so I'm happy to do that. Well, what does the rest, what does everyone else think?
May 6th.
Well, no, I could be May 6th, but I would suggest today's the 8th, maybe the 29th.
Well, I think what I was suggesting is we do meet the 6th, like reschedule our regular meeting to
Oh.
the 6th.
Okay,
And then have an additional special meeting in between now and the 6th.
oh. Okay.
Unless
well,
people
I-
think I'm meeting crazy, but I just,
I'll be away, so okay.
yeah, there you go, you're off the hook. Well, there's
Um,
always Zoom, Jeff.
Oh, no, there's not.
what do the rest of you all feel? We have three proposals. No more meetings, except our next meeting on the 13th. Second proposal is to keep the 13th and schedule another meeting between now and the 13th. Third proposal is move our 13th meeting to the 6th and have an additional meeting between now and the 6th. And I can go either way, I don't have any strong feelings.
We could do the 2 meetings between now and the 6th and just see who can make them. Like do the May 6th and then decide which one after.
Okay,
Should we be at the public ones on the 14th and 22nd?
Yeah,
Yeah.
May, yeah.
Last, yeah.
that would be our hearing, so.
Yeah, so
John will
we're
have-
talking about, we're talking about one final meeting. Well, it doesn't have to be a final, but we could do it on the 6th, but certainly we make a final decision by no later than 6. Hopefully, we can even make some decisions tonight, but if not, at our special meeting between now and 6. So we have 2 opportunities to make a final decision, the 6th and then the meeting between now and the 6th, which, 22nd or 29th, which are Wednesdays, or we can do Thursday too, or Friday.
Okay, so today's the 8th, next Wednesday is the 15th.
Jackson.
And then, yay, and the Wednesday after that is the 22nd. I guess I would say the 22nd, just to give us all a little time to. break.
22nd at 6?
Hmm?
22nd at 6, is that what you're thinking?
School break that week. So,
School break,
yeah,
you want to do it early?
I'll just be all over the place. So, can we do it the 29th?
It's fine with me,
Okay,
29th?
That puts 2 of them back to back.
yeah.
Yeah, that'd be back to back.
Um,
If we did it that week,
I mean, yeah, I might not be able to make it. But that will be,
no,
I'll definitely make the set.
I should be able to make it that evening,
which,
the 22nd.
okay, what, is it better if you do it during the day, earlier?
And
During the day would be better for me, just because we'll have family up during the week, they're helping with Viva.
Right, so if we did it,
But at nighttime it's tricky, so I'm cooking for everybody.
if we did it if we did it at 4 on the 22nd, do you think you'd be able to make it?
Yeah,
well, I'm at work
sorry.
during the day on Wednesday, and I usually have to be at the workshop from 4 to 6. I'm free 2 to 4. That's my window between office closing and. So just do 2 to 4. We can do 2 to 4. Awesome. All right.
On the 22nd.
does that work for everyone?
So I may not be.
Obviously,
I don't have my work schedule here in front of me. Well, why don't we say the 22nd? I'll check my work schedule, see. If I could work from home. For the afternoon, as long as I don't have to be somewhere. So how's everybody up? Nick? Dick, are you all okay on the 22nd?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Okay, 22nd, at 2, say 2.
Yeah.
22nd at 2, subject to, my confirmation. And the backup, if we can't do it at 2, would be, 6. Because you can't do it at 4. Okay, all right,
And we are we're having a meeting on the 6th.
May 5th.
and May 6th, yeah,
And that's,
That
that's,
wise, and that
that's
was your best.
replacing the 13th.
Yes.
yeah. Yeah. We'll have to get notice out.
Yep.
For those. Okay, all right. Good, thank you, Jeff, for facilitating that discussion.
well, I also thought the select board would appreciate getting it a bit before the 14th.
All right, back to the proposed ordinances, in no particular order, I had next the amendments to the master zoning map. Do we have any more discussion about that? I know that there's gonna be some, we're gonna reach out to the.
Yeah, before we move on from the glyphosate ordinance though, it's such a short ordinance, it feels like it should be part of the land use ordinance, so it's just, it would be like another land use category. And that way we could add her definitions. And I just think it would be a lot more simple. Gary's the one who's gonna have to enforce it, might as well be in all in one place.
At this point, it's just a matter of, what makes sense from us at our end of the drafting things. And then the second consideration is making sure that we present it in a way that, folks understand what we're doing. So, I'm trying to emphasize simple and clear. So I don't have any hard feelings about that. That what, does that make sense to you? Which, what April's proposing to fold the master zoning map.
No, the glyphosate,
The pesticide.
the pesticide stuff into the land use ordinance. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The zoning map isn't really an ordinance.
Right,
It
right,
does need town approval, but.
right.
Yeah, it's a
But
separate
we're
thing.
not changing.
Okay, you're talking about pesticides.
Yeah, I was talking about Susan's, cause it's nice and short. I think it would fit as nice as just another section under the land use
Yeah.
categories, and it's a land use. And
Okay.
there's no permitting required. It's sort of one of those
Enforcement.
self-enforced. It's in there, and if someone,
Yeah.
you know for sure they did it, then they're in trouble, but
And
All right,
definitions.
I'm just, I'm thinking about how we present it to the town. If, the driver on the consolidated land use ordinance is, for simplifying, clarifying, and, a couple new things, but nothing, no new ordinances.
I've been rolling this.
So I don't wanna muddy the water.
I'm not, yeah, I hear you, and I'm not sure.
I don't have any problem in saying, we have two versions of the consolidated one
No,
with the new ordinances written in.
yeah.
Yeah, assuming you're granted.
I think if we go forward with proposing a consolidated land use ordinance, we would wanna do a really simple strike and replace with a ordinance that doesn't change anything, right? The key thing here is streamlining, simplifying. We want that message to get through, and I wouldn't wanna muddy it up with a lot of like, and we're also proposing pesticides and this and that. That could get crazy. I'm not sure, but I think you could put this in as a strike and replace. If it passed, then you could propose subsequent amendments to it. And that might be a way to get it done without mixing them together. I'm not positive, but that occurred to me today. So you would say, okay, now we have our new ordinance, and now this next warrant article is proposing to add these glyphosate restrictions to our new land use ordinance that we just adopted. And they could say yay or nay, and that way that issue wouldn't bring down the whole thing. I think you could do that, but I'm not positive.
Yeah, okay, well, let's think about that and then we can make a decision, our next meeting.
Yeah.
Whatever it says, but I'm kind of leaning in favor of the unified ordinance, bare bones emphasis on simplifying and correcting, and then have separate presentation of article on the substantive, the new substantive ordinances. And I think, I guess where I'm leaning is you kind of footnote that presentation with if we decide to do this, that we're amending, parenthetically, we're going to amend the new unified ordinance to incorporate that. So I think that's kind of
Yeah, as much as we can separate issues so people
right.
can decide each one
Simple.
separately.
Okay. Well, let's think about it, and we can finalize where we want to head, because I need to think it through too. Okay. Back to the amendment to the master zoning map. Is there anything more that are there any updates to that since our meeting? I know you guys are talking about it.
April and I talked about it, but it's, as I said, it's not really an ordinance change.
No,
But what
Yeah.
April's doing, when it's, the zoning map, and we're not proposing at this point to add anything that isn't supposed to be there.
Right.
We're just trying to update the map if it's a statute. So it does need town approval.
right,
but it's not really an ordinance change, so.
right.
I think the thing we should prioritize is any changes to the ordinance. We can come back to that, the concerns I have are just trying to match our ordinance to the master shoreline map and match that to the state statutes, just so there's no confusion.
Yeah,
And right now, they don't match it.
but in terms of that thing, what we're gonna ask the town to approve. Uh, uh, is it all done? Are we ready to finalize it?
Well, the email I sent out this week lays out, I think, what I'm suggesting should happen. I haven't written it up as a ordinance change because it's not an ordinance.
No, but we've gotta put it into law. So whatever that is.
But I think that would be, I guess, thing of that.
Well, no, that is good, that's good.
I think,
That's kind of what I was hoping to see, because I said, okay, what is it we're gonna give to people to look at?
Right.
well. So this is our map, this is our shoreline zone map, that's it, that's the current one.
Right,
It does not match our online map. Gary, when you're enforcing shoreline zoning, do you look at this or do you look at the tax map? I hope it's that way, it's tax map. Good.
It's basically measurements for me.
Yeah, you're on site, so you could just be like 250 feet to the water.
how do you measure that?
I still owe you.
That's all right. We'll talk about it later.
Slipped my mind.
No, that's all right. We'll talk about that later.
So,
Okay, so what are we gonna put in the warrant?
so baseline. Nothing, right? We're using this map, this is the map, we found it, yay. The problem with this map is that it's out of date. It doesn't include a resource protection district, which we must have adopted subsequently. It doesn't include all the CFMAs, so every time you change your zones, you're supposed to amend the map, and I think we just forgot to do that. It's a lot to remember with this stuff. So the map's out of date. If we wanna just bring it up to date with the ordinance, first of all, we could add the CFMAs that are new. We could add the resource protection district. Where you get into sticky stuff that I'm not sure about, like technically we would be following the statute, but it would, our own ordinances even, but it would start to affect landowners. Is the wading bird habitat that we list in our resource protection district. You can see on the map here. See those blue areas? That is the wading bird habitat. And I guess we have this one on that map, kind of, up at the top. We don't have this one. We don't have this one. This is the Hopkins Pond area, so we don't have that one. So these would all be, if we are following our own definition of resource protection. These areas would have to be added, which of course would add a bunch of properties. Resource protection. I think that's it for the wading bird stuff. The other tricky thing is, according to the DEP, we are mandatorily supposed to include our flood zones in the resource protection zone. This is a little tricky, it takes a minute to load, so just give it a second. There it is. That's the flood zone. Do you see how far that goes? That's Squam Creek. This is flood zone. That should all be resource protection according to strictly following the DEP. So.
And look at Longco Creek goes all the way up to the south.
Right, this is the other big one. So these are really the two biggest things. But you start affecting, I'm all for following the law. Say that.
That's good.
I'm also hesitant about affecting all these property owners and like. So I'm not quite sure what to do. I'll leave it there.
Okay,
That's what was good for us to talk about.
yeah, so, first question is, assuming we do everything or part of them. What is that going to be in front of the town? A new map with these squiggles on?
Yes.
Okay, so who's going to be able to generate that new map for us? Is that something we need to help from the state?
We're gonna talk to Emily Rabe from Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission.
Okay,
I
Um,
asked for help from the state, but Colin's not responding right now. So
the DEP's just
all right, well, that's what I'm getting
MIA.
at. That's what I'm getting at, because at some point, we're gonna be standing for the town, you know.
But the
Same.
maps, these maps exist, and what she's
Right,
showing
right,
you comes from FEMA.
Right.
So
But we need
this
to,
material exists, and that's actually on the Westport Island, it's one of the layers.
It's a lit, yeah. And
We
the,
have it.
the bird habitat is some official data set. So it's not like we're making it up.
It would be just
well, let's,
importing that part of the tax map into the
okay.
shoreline.
Right.
All right, well, let's do this. If we could, and you guys tell me which dates you want. If we could have a hard, stop on either the what was it, 22nd?
22nd or
Either the 22nd or the 6th, where you put the map that we're proposing up on the screen, and, we vote on which squiggles we're gonna put in front of the town, and which ones we're not. Because it sounds like there's, some concerns there, and,
I would need help with somebody who knows how to manipulate maps, because that's beyond my.
But I think that's what the outfit can do.
We can do.
Emily, that is,
See, that's a- yeah.
yeah,
Well, that's, we were hoping to meet, well, we're zooming with her Friday.
Yeah, well, we're still rescheduling. We were gonna meet today before this meeting, but she got sick, so we're working on it, but
they're having meetings, next week, so they'll also be with the folks there, so.
all right, well, look, and the point is, no stressors, right? Look, we do what we can, and honestly, if we can't do it, then we
it
don't.
doesn't, it's been wrong since
Right,
who
right.
knows when,
Yeah,
so,
it's not the end
oh
of the
well.
world.
It's a 90s.
It's 77.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but,
I mean, it's probably right for a few years.
but let's just say, okay, here's our cutoff. We go with whatever we have, or we're going to recommend. We make a final decision here, then that's it.
Yeah.
You
The
wanna
only
do that,
thing I will say, yeah, no, I'm fine with the cutoff.
but which is the 6th?
I think the 6th is the cutoff for everything. I'm,
No, I know, but do you want it? Do you want
Yeah.
that, the map part stuff? Okay.
yeah, I think
Okay.
it has to be,
Okay.
probably.
Well, we could do
We'll
it.
figure it out somehow.
Yeah, if you go, well, it's the
Data.
FEMA hosted data. That's what I'm trying to.
I'm just wondering if it's 100-year flood map, so where.
All right, and
Got a question, so in terms of an option, if we don't meet that deadline on the 6th, can we have another town meeting just for this mapping topic?
Yes, and that might be totally appropriate, because it's a big subject.
Because it's such a big subject. I'm just thinking, when you start putting it in with all the other warrant items,
that's a good idea. That's a
you
good
know, I
idea.
just think it just becomes too cumbersome.
That's a good idea.
Hmm.
Do you, do you wanna float that to the select board and see if?
Well,
if they-
Are we proposing to do, so
No map,
there's two separate things, right? There's the ordinance consolidation project and there's the map project.
yeah,
So
all we're
we're,
talking about is the map.
the map project,
Okay, so,
that's probably gonna be the most contentious and tricky one, so.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just look at this as a,
It's only really gonna affect two areas, and a lot of the landowners are already like Calvin's and out of.
Yeah.
Swamp Creek, so the number of landowners affected beyond what this map already says isn't quite as dramatic as you think.
yes,
She brought up the wildlife habitats, but that's the problem there is. It's optional under state statute. We don't have to do it. The
Yeah.
problem is our current ordinances says we do, but we don't.
Right, it's odd, we picked this like extra step. We went a step further than we had to, but we didn't include, well, we probably, I mean. Back then, we probably didn't have a flood zone ordinance,
yeah.
so it's hard to unpack how everything happens sequentially.
You guys own this,
We'll
okay?
work on it.
You guys own this, you tell us what feels comfortable for you all, by, 22nd or
I can
6th.
get help with the mapping, we can get it done, we know what we're trying to do.
Okay. You got whatever you've got this backup and, so no stressors,
Yep.
whatever feels.
Or maybe a time, because Laura in the past had said that they could help. Laura is the one who will be doing the mapping work. And it's just more, maybe more time. It's too long.
Yeah, so you guys tell us what you recommend.
Emily is her boss, but Laura's the one who's the stuff.
Okay.
You guys tell us what you recommend, we'll. Okay, but that, you know,
Yeah.
that's a good to have that idea. Okay, we'll check that box. I think we are now at the unified land use board.
No, this thing. Would breathe the heat. Unified land use ordinance. So last we met, let me get back up to the top, we went through this. And I think I incorporated the changes that you mentioned, but if I've missed anything, do let me know, and I apologize when I open it. Online, it formats terribly, so it's the way it is. But as I've mentioned before, this is the DEP model ordinance, so I just took their model ordinance, which both our building code and shoreline zone are pretty similar to, they seem like maybe older versions of that. So I just took that as the base, and then I took any language from either the building or the shoreline that wasn't in that model, our stuff, and dumped it in here. And that's the red text you see. And then wherever there was language in the DEP model that doesn't just really apply to us, it's about lakes or ponds, I just redlined out, so it's crossed out. The green highlighting is stuff that is new, that I added, or in this case, actually, Nick suggested. It's a little harder to see up there than it is on the computer, so I apologize for that, but Demi had requested to be able to see what was new, so that's there. So these sections are pretty boring. This is, well, not really boring, very important, but you know, I just basically combined stuff. So this is all the purpose from the building code and the DEP and the shoreline zones. We have every single possible purpose captured in one thing. Applicability is important because instead of saying the shoreline zone, it says all land areas within the town of Westport Island. So this would be the one ordinance that applies everywhere. When we get down to effective date, all this green language is my attempt at partitioning it so that if we make changes to the parts that apply to the shoreline zone, that goes to the DEP. If we make changes to anything that just affects the non-shoreland areas, that does not have to go to the DEP. So it's messy language wise. I looked at the town of Porter's combined ordinance and they did a similar thing where they just made sure to parse it out really carefully. And that will keep us from having to run everything in this ordinance by the DEP, only the things that apply to the shoreline zone. Moving on, same thing in amendments. Green language is to make sure only the stuff that applies to shoreline has to go through the DEP. This is the structure we've talked about before. We have the shoreline zone with the 4 districts within it, limited development, limited residential commercial. It's not doing that. Commercial fisheries, maritime activities, and then a second zone, the non-shoreline zone, and that's the new thing. Not really new though, it's just a semantics change to sort of differentiate that area. Most of this is just taking out the word shoreland, so we would have one official zoning map instead of official shoreland zoning and a separate map. In non-conformance, it was mostly a matter of putting in titles so that we can see this applies to non-shoreland, this applies to shoreland. And otherwise, it's just dumping the text in. This is different than our current shoreland zone ordinance because the DEP, I think, has done some updates since whenever we last adopted this. So there's additional sort of detailed language in here.
What does that language add?
So it adds, let's see.
It's a new thing, it's going, well, what is it? It's new.
Yeah, I mean, it's the bare minimum of what we're supposed to be doing. Colin sort of mentioned this when he was here. So we kind of need to adopt it because it's their bare minimum. But the differences are, for example, 15-foot height limit, for structures within the 25 feet of the shoreline zone. I don't believe we have that in our current ordinance. There's some more height limits as you go out, 20 feet, and 75 feet from the water. And then 25 feet within 100 feet of the water. I put these titles in green in here just because every time I look at this, I have trouble keeping track of it. They don't have to stay. It was just more for my benefit.
But I think it's a way to describe it, so it's bringing, and this is stuff that you're adding because the statute has been
Yes.
revised and we need to be compliant.
Yep, anything in black is just the DEP minimum. So it's similar to what we have, but it adds more details and those height limits that we don't currently have.
It actually started out as an optional way to regulate non-conforming structures. We decided they liked it, so now they're just gonna adopt it as the rules.
Yeah. Relocation, so this little section refers to all the zones, so it applies everywhere. And then there's some special stuff for the shoreline zone, essentially having to replant trees when you relocate something. There's a lot of tree stuff that only applies to the shoreline zone. Reconstruction replacement, pretty easy. We just dumped this simple non-shoreline zone in here. Then the rest is the DEP language. We do have one little thing that I kind of like, in our shoreline zoning ordinance, this red language. I put a comment on here, but basically it's getting a little more, specific about market value and how that's determined. And I think that's probably a good thing, helpful thing to have. And a little bit of a process if there's disagreement.
That's consistent with the statute.
Yeah, I think this goes a little further than DEP, so I think they would be fine with
The
it.
DEP wanted to adopt this language, right, is what Colin was telling us, that they wanted to make it more clear like this, because there's in some cases saying that they can take 50% of market value, but if you take the structure out of where it is, like you could have a barn
Yes,
on the water, and then the market value is tied to the location, but this is saying it is not tied to the location, it's tied to the structure.
right, regardless of where the structure is located. So I think we're kind of ahead of the curve there.
Innovative.
Yep. And then more, this is just partitioning what applies everywhere versus what applies in the shoreline zone, so anywhere goes. Special stuff. Then we get into the definition of the districts, and this is where it starts to get interesting. So resource protection. In our building code, we have a pretty short definition and it mostly lists out maps and lots. In the shoreline zoning, it gets a little more elaborate and it talks about those wading bird habitats that we looked at. So I have put in here the basic DEP definition, because I think it's probably, we should probably go with that and then build onto it what's appropriate. And it just, anywhere that development would adversely affect water supply, productive habitat, blah, blah, blah. This district includes the following areas when they occur within the limits of the shoreline zone. And then it talks about the stream protection district. We should probably cross that out as we do not have it. Oops. Not like that though.
So is this a new definition for us
Yes,
that came from the DEP?
this is the DEP one. Yep. And so these first 4 items are the mandatory items that Nick and I were talking about, that we currently have not included in our district. So the red line is the items that apply to, great ponds along rivers. So that does not apply to us, that's why it's redlined out, but the 100-year floodplains adjacent to tidal waters, as shown on FEMA's flood insurance rate maps or flood hazard boundary maps. Those do apply to us, and that was one of the things we showed you on that map that probably needs to be wrapped into resource protection. Areas of 2 or more contiguous acres with sustained slopes of 20% or greater. That's hard to see. I don't know any maps that like show you that. I've looked at the topography, but I don't know how to eyeball 2 acre, you know,
It's like an equation, the surveyors usually
Yeah.
do. The steep slopes is something that's very common, like in the peninsulas next door.
yeah. Well, it's probably something like Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission can help
But
us.
also they'll be
Figure out.
incorporated because it relates to, it primarily relates to slopes around wetland areas, so they're gonna get
Yeah.
incorporated into the other definitions anyway.
Areas of 2 or more contiguous acres supporting wetland vegetation and hydrant soils. I'm not sure what data set you would look at to figure that out. There's like a national wetlands inventory, but again, that's probably something.
Our,
Lincoln County.
our tax map actually has a layer for hydric soils, which I had to realize till today. It's under the state data.
Sometimes you get an environmental surveyor, they test the soil. They like, stick it down and they pull it up and you can tell. What kind of soil
The
it
state actually has mapped them,
changes.
Okay,
yeah.
Where is it?
yeah, well, we'll look at that too and try to get it onto a map for you guys.
It's under soils, if you click the plus,
Oh, here we are,
and then there's, one of them is hydric.
hydrant soils.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah, I don't remember that being.
Yeah, there's like emergent wetlands,
See, and
there's
it's-
so many
it's-
different
It's
types.
basically along the flood zones. But
Oh, I see, I see.
mostly there's some forested wetlands involved, but
So-
it's mostly along the flood zones.
It's tricky to figure out where this is, but it's something we can get help with and figure out. And then land areas along rivers subject to severe bank erosion. This would be mostly lands adjacent to tidal waters for us. And again, I don't know how you determine that. Those are the mandatory things that we're supposed to have in resource protection, and we don't have any of those currently in our, for example, shoreline zoning ordinance. We just talked about the wading bird habitat. Go back here, of course.
So all those criteria already had to be met, it wasn't present in our shoreline zone ordinance. It was just the criteria that needed to be met. So
Yes.
people normally don't search up the DEP ordinance when they're looking at like what they're gonna do with their land, they look at local, so are you saying it kind of helps to incorporate?
Well, the language in this draft land use ordinance is the model DEP ordinance that they suggest towns adopt, so they're saying we should adopt these standards and people should be looking at their local ordinance and be able to get this out of their local ordinance.
Thought it in hopes, but they had to follow it regardless.
I guess, and I'm like, I'm confused because they get our ordinances every time we amend them, they go through them with a fine tooth comb. If these are the minimum standards, why didn't they ever mention it before? I'm not sure, I mean, I know it's a big ordinance, they have a lot to look at,
There's two guys.
There's two guys. Maybe that's why, but.
The northern part, say.
DEP would love to have towns enforcing their rules.
Yes, right.
And then that's followed by a bunch of optional things, so I left this note in here just so we could see what they have to say. May also include the following other areas which have been recommended. And it's, number E is the one that we currently have in our section, so.
Is this something that you suggest we should talk about? Because I don't think we want to put that language into something the town adopts.
What, letter E?
No, this may include the optional.
Oh, no, it's highlighted to remind me to delete it.
Yeah.
This-
We're not
Yeah, that-
currently proposing the optional items because it's a change.
Yeah.
That what she's pointing out is that option E is written into our ordinance right now, so it'd be a change to take it out.
Right, so would we wanna back off from this?
So just leave it in, because if it's in there.
But if we leave it in, then we have to add it because it's not on the maps. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's in the
It's those
ordinance.
blue
it's not on the
areas.
map.
It's
I
like,
would be-
a-
I would be in favor of it if it's in the ordinance now, leaving it, yeah.
Okay, so then we need to add it to the map.
It's one of the others, so we're already coming in and saying we've got to fix the maps, that's another thing.
Yeah.
It's a fix to the map.
Yes,
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Wish everything wasn't such a can of worms, but
Mhm.
seems to be my lot in life. So I'm not suggesting we add any of these special things other than the bird thing, since it's already in there. But I do think we need to probably address these four things up here and make sure we have those in there.
That's what we're proposing. I do want to say that I think some of the optional items we should consider long-term, but not this year.
So the DEP breaks their suggested districts, which we don't have to adopt, into limited residential, limited commercial, and we kind of smushed them into limited residential commercial. Which I'll get to in a minute. We don't have a general development district. Or general development two. We have. Limited development, which we created, I think. On that 97 map, all we have is limited development, and what must have happened is resource protection came in later. And we kind of exempted some properties. Does that sound right, by creating limited development? And our definitions in the building code and shoreline zone. Refer to these items that I don't think we really use or know where they even are anymore. The Pond District and the 1974 Shoreline Zoning Ordinance and the Comprehensive Rural District. Same thing in the building code. So what I did here, why it's in green, is I just took a crack at talking about what it actually is. Limited development district includes properties in the resource protection district that have residential development present at the time of the adoption of the resource protection district. The purpose of this district is to allow residential owners of these properties more development potential than would be allowed under the resource protection district.
Did you say the limited development district existed before the resource protection district?
According to that map.
It did, we started out as the bond district,
Oh, there you go.
and then it became the limited development district. And then there was another layer of additional protection needed. According to the DEP, so the resource protection district in towns with Maryland with these resource protection districts that were partially developed, so then they started having these carve outs, because it's not fair to say, somebody who's had a house in a district for 30 years, all of a sudden, all that, you're 180 feet from the protected resource, so now you're non-conforming, which brings the, all of the connotations that go along with that and the limitations that go along with that. So the solution was to exempt properties that were already developed from resource protection.
That's what it is, they're different approach on along the coastline, where we just said you're non-conforming. Built on the shore, we didn't list the specific properties that were exempted. Like all the Sheepshead River or.
The undersized lot, the cottage lots.
Or the ones who are at old campsites that are right on the waterfront, so they're exempted from the shoreline or the grandfather.
The grandfather.
But we didn't list them as
They get around it through
separate district, we just.
Well, we weren't creating this exclusive district along the shoreline. The shoreline is the shoreline. Here, creating a separate.
Yeah, I was just wondering.
District.
But I think you explained it because it came in different orders and facts, so I get it.
And then limited residential commercial district, of course, we have that district. And I did change the wording a little bit. Let me go back here to remember how. Again, it refers to the rural residential 1974 ordinance. And I think this district includes areas of 2 or more contiguous acres in size and is suitable for both blah, blah, blah. I think I basically took that language. I didn't take the 2 acre stuff because we talk about that later. It just seemed odd to talk about minimum lot size or whatever here. We're talking about, we're defining the districts, what their purpose is. So it seemed a little incongruous. And I was curious about the history, and I think, Nick, you might have solved this. Where's my comment here?
10 boats
Find the
storage
comment.
was in the statute, but it was repealed. It's no longer allowed. That's what the CFMA is.
Right, so I think what we might have is an old definition. And this phrase of ours that is only in our ordinances and is not currently in the DEP language is a holdover. Because we hadn't yet adopted the updated DEP language. Once they created the CFME district,
So we need to take that out.
I believe so, but I wanted to,
It's a note in the chapter 1000 guidelines says we repealed this. It's no longer allowed.
Right. okay. I mean, if it's all right with you guys, I will. Perhaps. Take it out. Sound all right? I don't wanna mess up anybody's. Life. And industrial uses are prohibited. That is already part of our definition. Part of the DEP definition. And there is a change to this district in the sense that it is now under the shoreland umbrella. So we are only gonna have limited residential commercial in the shoreland. And then the rest of the island, which is not in the shoreland, is now the non-shoreland district and or title to be TBD.
Mhm.
I think it's a good title, but whatever. Just to really clearly separate those two areas. The differences between them are slight at this point. There are some differences. I made a little table somewhere, trying to figure it out. Just because LRC is in shoreland, they have different rules that apply. But this way. If you're gonna combine the ordinances, you also have to have a way to differentiate, right? So all those places in non-conformance where I had to say, this applies in shoreland and this applies in non-shoreland. It's much easier than saying, this applies in the LRC district outside of the shoreland, so that gets. So it's a semantics change that hopefully makes sense to people. Commercial fisheries maritime activities district, I've gone back and forth on this a lot. This is the same, this is the DEP definition, and I believe. At least this intro part is what we have in our shoreland. Ordinance currently. What's different is that the DEP goes and lists these geographic factors, which I don't think we do usually consider, because we usually consider. Like, someone's fishing there, it's the use, is how we define CFMA. We talked about this last time, I had taken those out and somebody said, yeah, maybe leave them in. Maybe it's something we can look at or should look at, but. I don't know, I'm agnostic on
Because it's
it.
just like taking into considerations, not saying they have to meet these.
Mhm.
It lists attributes of a ideal CFMA zone.
Yeah, like why would a property be good for commercial activity, and it lists these geographic.
Yeah.
Possible things.
Yeah, a little cove that shelters from storms, that was the traditional.
Nice deep water, that kind of
Mhm.
thing. But I think sometimes we have people who wanna fish and they're on the muddy side of the island and none of this would apply and we still grant them CFMA because.
Yeah.
They wanna fish.
Maritime business.
Yeah. So that's a possible addition, if we're okay with that stuff. And then I made an attempt to try to address. What we've been grappling with, what happens with a CFMA property when. The business goes out of business, they move, they pass away, there's no maritime activity happening there. If the purpose of the district is to encourage maritime activity. Should we be taking it out of CFMA ever? Should it always stay in CFMA? How do we want to address it? So I took a crack at that, and 1, 2, and 3 are. Basically suggestions from the MMA on how to not spot zone, as long as you say these things in your hearing, you won't get in trouble. We have to make sure that we're. Sort of making sure they're using it for that, it's consistent with the comprehensive plan, and the public benefit is more important than the benefit to that particular owner, which we've found, like in Ted's hearing. It's important to the town to have working waterfront. So that's just to cover our butts legally, and then this last part is a new part, and basically saying. Getting CFMA zoning and keeping it is based on your ongoing commercial use. And that the CEO, Gary, shall annually conduct inspections of CFMA areas to ensure ongoing commercial use. If it ceases to be used commercially, the CEO shall seek the rezoning of the property with another district at the next town meeting. And I put a really long comment on here because it's complex, right? Not so sure about this. Here it is. If the CFMA, this is the detriment situation, right?
Mhm.
You have a CFMA, it gets, let's say they wanna rezone it to limited residential commercial, they request that of us. Okay. So what happens to all those buildings? We're probably not gonna make them tear it down, that's just silly. But then, what rules is it governed by? So, non-conforming structures, right? So that all that non-conforming stuff applies. You can expand it a little bit, you can do this, you can do that, depending on where you are in the water setback. So they still can do things with the buildings, but then the uses is where I get hung up, right? The use in the CFMA district is commercial, then that use stops. Then you change it to limited residential commercial, the allowed uses in limited residential commercial are residential and commercial. So now this property owner has awesome buildings on the water that they can live in and do any kind of business in. It seems like a huge benefit.
We can't live in it, it's a change of use, if
Right.
it's still the dwelling, it's the change of use if you decide to turn it, well, I should say. The structure is considered a change of use if you try to turn it into a dwelling, you can't start like running an Airbnb on the water, it used to be a boathouse. Can't turn it into a dwelling.
You can,
Yeah.
legally.
Okay. What about like commercially, say? Yeah, legally would. So if they were able to get it rezoned to LRC and they wanted to run a business, it's not maritime. Now they're in an LRC district, would that be okay? No, why? No,
Because it has nothing maritime related.
Yeah,
but if it's not CFMA anymore. What,
Too bad. If it wasn't CFMA, that building wouldn't be allowed there, period.
So it's a non-conforming structure that does not change its use.
non-conforming structure that can't change its use? Not sure I understand why.
If the structure is a boathouse, it can't be anything but a boathouse, even if you change the zoning.
And the public purpose is to support maritime activity.
I'm not arguing with it, or in
Yeah,
favor
that's
of
okay.
this scenario, I'm actually kind of arguing against this scenario.
Yeah.
Like, if something is so developed as a CFMA, maybe it should stay CFMA, I think is the case I'm making, and so it may have to be more case by case. Oh, this one's not developed at all, and the landowner wants to sell it and would rather have it LRC, because that will be easier to sell it, and maybe we say, okay, because there's no buildings there. But if it's all developed as a CFMA with all these buildings in the water, maybe we say, no dice, it's gotta stay in CFMA.
The example of the fish plant in Bath, which, you know, fine, it was they processed herring there, but at some point it just goes out of use. And the end result, eventually, is it gets torn down. Cause there's nothing else that's gonna go in there, it was maritime. If someone comes in and says, hey, this is great, I can run my maritime business here, then I think there's an opportunity to continue as a CFMA. But otherwise,
I don't wanna get,
What you're asking and trying to point out is to all of us that, are we giving more leniency when the property goes from CFMA to back to LRC?
if we were to do that.
If we were to do that.
Yeah.
And I think we're saying no, because if there's a maritime structure within the shoreline zone, that structure cannot be changed in use, like that structure's use cannot be changed, so it's a boathouse, it's, you know, I don't know, like a boat building shop or whatever else there is for the CFMA zone or lobster, storage. They cannot legally change that to be anything else but than what it is.
LRC, they can't use it at all, right?
They could use it as what it was intended to use.
They could still use it as a maritime business in an LRC
They could
district.
still use it as a boathouse, they could still use it, but they can't all of a sudden put beds in there and call it a dwelling or a
That's what I'm
bunkhouse or
saying,
change,
the-
the use, right?
Limited residential commercial
I mean-
doesn't allow marijuana.
Let me wave the flag.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that's really clear is that we can't put this ordinance. This is a big deal. It's something that's gonna require time, a separate amendment. I don't think I think we risk losing this effort over decision. So I think we need to excise any attempts to deal with the transition kind of issue and say that for.
Is with the transition issue, would that be new in addition? to
I just think of the Hodgkins, you know,
Yeah.
situation. That's a real time example of what we've got going on here.
We
There's
could,
a fundamental principle, in operation here. Zone land for particular use. Think of, these, where we have an industrial, putting in a steel. This is an industrial use, and once you zone the land for that, that's pretty much it. So we're talking about wanting to consider having the flexibility to swap zones. Depending upon who buys the property and what they want to do with it. Well, that's spot zone, that's not zoning. The kind of the traditional way. Spot zoning is okay with respect to CFMAs according to the MMA. But anyway, the point I think, for our. The point for us at this point is, we risk losing, passing a unified.
it doesn't hurt my feelings to excess this, because it's hard.
Well,
It's
I don't
really
think-
hard.
I
I think we do need to think about it, but
Yeah.
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
When I say excise, I don't mean throw it away and never talk about it.
Right.
We gotta deal with this issue.
Yeah.
That came up, with the north end. It comes up, how many times have we talked about it?
Right.
It's something that we're concerned about. I think islanders who are aware of it, are probably concerned about it too. So I think we keep it alive, but that's a separate.
Yeah.
That's a separate thing. Not, I don't think we.
Have we
Not at
ever
this time.
seen the property go back to LRC? No, okay, so this is new, okay,
This
that's,
is a big deal, yeah. And there's. Just as evidenced by our conversation, there's genuine interest to consider
Yeah.
it. For all the reasons we talked about, but. Sure, we're gonna kill this effort if the town
Yeah.
gets involved in having a discussion we're having.
I do want to point out one important change that's actually throughout this whole section, and I have not put in specific maps and lots like we do in the shoreline zoning ordinance. And I think, I haven't had a chance to talk to Colin, he's been MIA, but I believe that's a better approach, because these maps and lots are already inaccurate because people have subdivided, things have changed. Sometimes they're just errors, and like something that should be in the resource protection district is showing it on the map is not listed. So I think the idea is to describe in your ordinance and show on your map. And that way the two never come into conflict.
how do you feel about that? It's your enforcement, so you're not going by law, does it? Saying yes, for these zone districts, you're going by.
Well, the districts would end at a lot line. We'd have to have a good map, better than this map, that actually shows that. But then if somebody subdivides, your ordinance doesn't become inaccurate. It's shown on the map, described in the ordinance. Personally, I think that would be better, because we keep getting out of sync between the two ordinances, right? In the ordinance with the map and.
Or like it would be
So
like the
messy.
spot zone, it would be like the CFMA, if someone in the limited development district subdivided, then it would have to be voted in.
You would have to, yeah, or your ordinance becomes out of sync with your map.
What about enforceability, like, does that change anything? Does it make it harder because you can't go by lots or, you know?
You talking exclusively about CFMA, lots or?
No, I think the CFMAs,
CFMAs are, I mean, that's, yeah.
they're spot zoned, but you can show them on the map.
Right.
So I think that might be easier, that might be. It might be, I don't know how to say it, more elegant to show it on the map than to try to list them out in the ordinance, because the ordinance gets longer and longer and messier, especially when the CFMAs are defined by like deeds and
Right.
descriptions. If you can show it on the map, this is it, this is where it starts and ends, and it's a visual instead of a narrative. I think that might be better, but I don't know. I can put them back in if you want.
I mean, that's how we do the rest of the shoreline zone anyway. We don't list all the shoreline zone properties. We just show them on the map.
The map is the map.
The map is the authority.
Is the authority.
That's repeated a lot, all these resources. Whatever you have in your ordinance, that's great, but your map is the authority.
Yeah.
So,
All right, well, let's hold on to that.
yeah, I mean, all this will have to be run by lawyers and the DEP. So maybe they'll shoot that down, or maybe they'll say, yeah, that's the way it should be.
But I think Joe's right, though, in terms of the politics of getting this thing through, I think taking on new stuff, which creates a lot of comment, is a smart one to do.
Yeah, agree. I will lift out the CFMAs and we can get back to that.
I hold on to it.
Hold on to it, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
we're queuing things up for the round two,
yeah.
Yeah, sure.
which unfortunately maybe the.
This is a huge step. I mean,
Yeah.
just getting to this is
Yeah.
huge, and then we can, there'll be more work to do.
Yeah. So stream protection district, we don't have. I know we're getting late here. I'd like to look at the table. People don't mind staying up just a minute or two late, because I really wanna go through this carefully. So I took their table and popped it in here, but tried to combine theirs, all the stuff in one master table. So the green, you can see I've added our new theoretical non-shoreland zone, just so everyone, no matter where you live on the island, can look at this table, see what you can do. It's in tiny font, thank you, DEP. See if I can zoom it a little bit for us. There's a couple of questions. Most of this is pretty straightforward. I took out timber harvesting references. I think we've repealed that as far as I can tell. I think, so this one in particular, principal structures and uses, 1 and 2 family residential. In our shoreline zoning ordinance, we say that's okay with a CEO permit. In the DEP ordinance, they say no. So, my understanding is we can go further than the DEP, but not more lenient. So I'm not sure if that's a mistake or if, I don't know, is there a story? Do you know the story? Why we allow?
What category are you talking about?
Principal structures, uses 1 and 2 family residential, including driveways.
Yeah.
And the CFMA,
Yeah, I can take this over to shoreline zoning, but in the shoreline zoning ordinance, it says that's okay with a CEO permit.
Yeah, you're talking about allowing residential uses in the CFMA.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that was. I don't remember in the original, chapter 1,000 rules, but if that was allowed or not. When we were talking about it, a lot of the CFMA driven. Most of the CFMA districts on the island are lobster, so they had their house and they had their boat and their dog.
yeah,
There's no way, it made sense for us to disallow residential use in those districts.
But you've now separated out the part of the CFMA that's in the shoreline zone from the rest of it. So the rest of it would still be CEO. And not shoreline
yes,
component of the lot.
yeah.
You're just saying the part that's in the shoreline zone.
So if you were a lobsterman and you had your home and your dock and all this stuff and you wanted CFMA zoning, you should probably define your CFMA around your house or up, so your house is not in the CFMA zone. That would be one way to get around it, I guess.
can we do that?
Yeah, we have CFMAs that are just tiny portions of properties.
We do have a couple. And
So then it goes back. to-
residential use in the CFMA isn't subject to the additional, the additional allowances that CFMA's uses are, they're not entitled to show the closer setbacks and
Mhm.
larger lot coverages, so I just had a permit like that down to Ted and Deb's house, actually. Initially, it sent them up here because, they were exceeding the 20% threshold, the slope threshold. Because of the deck, as their land goes from their house like this, and then the last 3 feet goes like this. So when I shot the grade from the beginning of the project, end of the project, it was like 21.8% slope. So they took 2 feet off the deck. So that
Get
now
everyone
it was here, and it was, the slope came to like 19.6 or something like that. And then they wanted to know, well, what if we put the post there and cantilever the That's the kind of stuff you're.
Yeah. So in this instance, I think to be in line with the DEP, we should say no, but I think that we could still make these allowances for people who are mixing business and residential on a CFMA property by just saying, okay, let's make sure your house is outside of it. That would be the workaround.
You're saying that that's already the case, right?
No, they don't, the house can be incorporated into the CFMA, property. But it has, the residential use has to comply with all of the.
That's what I'm saying, so it had, the residential use has to be outside the.
The buffers.
The buffers, yeah. Anyway, well,
Or do you think buffers,
the 75 foot,
Same thing, okay.
but the shoreline zone is 250 feet. right?
but not the
But the
building.
building setback is
That's 75, so.
Yeah, there's stuff you can't do.
250 and resource protection only.
So what are we proposing here then?
I mean, I think to be proper and fully in line with DEP at this point, the right thing to do would be to change it to no. And going forward, make sure that accommodate people with homes by defining the CFMA around their home. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
Our ordinance right now says yes.
Our ordinance says with a CEO permit, you could have residential development in a CFMA
But
district.
remember, we're defining the CFMA now as the entire lot. She's changing the CFMA to just the shoreline part. So the rest of it is,
I'm not changing it. That's what it's always been.
yeah,
We've been
no, I mean.
straightening out our thinking about it.
I
But
think,
so you're not changing the residential component of it, it's what Derek's telling us.
yeah,
It's
Okay.
already supposed to be outside of the setback.
well, I think whatever we say here, we need to, I would drop a footnote.
A CFMA can go outside the 75 foot. It can go all the way to 250
Yeah.
foot. So from 75 to 250, you're in the building envelope. So
Yeah.
if you had a CFMA that big and we had this rule, you could put a house on it. And the DEP is saying, no, you can't do that.
Yes,
In a DEP is saying no houses in CFMS. CFMAs are strictly commercial. You cannot build a house there. Our current ordinance says you can. And I'm kind of agnostic here. I'm not making a position other than I would like to get us like fully in line with the DEP just because I'm type A and I've been so thorough in the rest of it. It would drive me crazy, but I don't wanna ruin anyone's property or life. I don't think this would be retroactive, but I just wanna like
I
think
think,
it through with you guys.
yeah, I think this is important, but I think this may fall in a category where it is going to have potentially, kind of substantive, potentially some impact. So I would be aware of this now in the spirit of, in this area, putting together a substantive. change.
Non-controversial, yeah, yeah.
But,
This
but we
would
need,
affect 10 debt. Is what you're
And
saying.
let's not forget April too,
but I think,
the version of our shoreline zoning ordinance has been approved by the commission multiple times.
right,
Yeah, and it's puzzling to me because there's various places where it just looks like totally contradictory, and it's like, well, why not? And I asked him about it when he was here, and he just kind of laughed and was like, we got a lot to look at. I don't know.
They carefully pick their battles too.
Right,
Yeah.
I think we leave this the way it is, where we have it now.
Yep.
And,
TV, we can take it up at another time.
Or
And-
not.
So does that mean that people can double dip, but they could like, you know, they use the highest, and best use of the LRC within the shoreline zone and then also the.
it's basically, the way I see it is with the CFMA, I think that
Not quite any. The biggest potential use that I can see with having a residential structure in the CFMA is the 70% lot coverage. I mean, you could have, right now for a residential lot, you've got to, within 75 feet, you have to maintain that well vegetated stand of trees. So you can't just have a straight view of the water. If you have 3 acres and you put the whole 3 acres in CFMA, now you can open up 70%, you know, and you can put a house back
Good view.
80 feet. Yeah, I mean, there's a number of houses on the island that have that already. You know, and 1 or 2 more in the CFA, you know. Build a plan, but, you know, it's a potential.
Wasn't there some ways in which the CFMA was more restrictive than the LRC
Well, it's
for, in terms of residential development? I thought there was things that the limited residential commercial could do, but the CFMA couldn't, like it wasn't just a free for all.
Well, if you have a commercial use, and I'm not talking about home occupation, CFM. I'm talking like a commercial, like a boat. And you wanna have a house on, it, you have to meet the area requirements for each use. So you would have to have 3 acres for the boatyard, plus another 2 acres for the house. So if you only had 3 acres, you couldn't have the boatyard and the house.
And what was that?
That was what,
What you just called it, it was like the area
70% lot coverage is allowed in the CFA.
area of use,
we should probably
okay.
wrap up, much as we can do tonight.
Yeah,
Is there more that you want to talk about?
we touched on this a little bit, industrial in the CFMA. This is fine. As far as the DP was concerned, I was just surprised. I thought we didn't have industrial whatsoever on the island, but it looks like it's allowed in CFMA, and I just questioned whether we want that or not. But that's kind of a TBD for later issue, not suggesting we change it right now. Maybe we do, maybe we don't mind, maybe we have a cannery or something. Or maybe we don't want that. It seems like we don't have that style of development. Do we want to allow it in the future? Just a question. And then at the end here, I added some items that we have put in our ordinances that aren't in the table, but probably should be, because they do require permits. These 2 are additionals that are already in the table. They're ours though, that's why they're in red. And these last 3 I threw in there because I was like, well, these things do require permits and we don't have them in the table yet.
Residential, I'm trying to read it.
I know, I'm sorry, residential wind power systems.
Oh, okay.
We have a huge section on that for some reason.
Yep.
Driveways, which we just put in, but we didn't add to the table. And then John was proposing something about wells, so put that in there too. Just for a placeholder, but I don't think we can get there tonight.
Okay, let's take a break, and, be continued.
Yeah,
And, you know, you've got the water protection ordinance, so I sent around, I can talk about them on the 22nd. I think you can kind of see what I'm doing there, and,
Maybe I can do some comments on after this, because I won't be there for that.
all right, good job.
yeah.
Thanks.
Anything else for this evening? Yeah, droopy eyes.
Been in this building since.
Yes, yes, all right, good job, guys, I'll get back to everybody on scheduling for the April 22nd for the, at 2 or 6. Move to adjourn,
So,
all in favor?
Bye.
super.